Hey, what's up everybody? It's your boy 3 Stacks in this thing, and I'm going to be letting you know exactly how I plan to prepare for this next event that I'm attending, which is just a regionals. It's not so huge, but at the same time, because you can get your invite, you should take it just as seriously as you would a YCS level event, because each event, one's bigger than the other, but the end result is the same and you get your invite to nationals nonetheless. So there's also another video that I'm going to be doing which covers how to prepare for these events, but I'm going to share you how I'm preparing for this event with the cards that I have laid out right here, because these are the only cards that I can use to deal with everything that I expect to see. So because of that, I had to make a lot of smart choices and also sacrifices to prepare myself for everything that might come my way. So this is also a deck profile. It's the deck profile based on the deck that I've been topping with numerously. It's been undefeated for almost 9 weeks now. So without further ado, let's get into the deck profile. And at the end of it, I will definitely let you know exactly how I prepared myself. So starting off with monsters, we play 2 copies of Masterpiece, the True Draco Saiyan King. There are a lot of reasons why I chose to play this kind of deck, and he was one of the main reasons because I felt like I wanted to have higher ceiling regardless of the matchup, and Masterpiece is just that card that has one of the highest ceilings regardless of the deck you're playing against, because most decks can't out it with one card, even if it's a board wipe, because you can make him unaffected by the board wipes itself. So Masterpiece is a really powerful card, and he's one of my edges in combating unbreakable boards, because the board might seem unbreakable, but it can't touch him, and so long as I have a monster on field, I can do what I need to do very well. So I really like the way my strategy works, because my deck doesn't lose to Max C. It also rarely ever does lose to Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. And at the same time, cards like Evenly Match have little to no impact on me whatsoever. So all of the bombshell blowout cards that most people play have no impact on my strategy, because I don't special summon a lot and I really don't control a lot of cards at the end of it. So a lot of the best cards that people are maining or side decking have no impact on me. So because of that, if they're playing in their main deck, they're playing cards that don't have, any effect on me, so they're dead cards. And Masterpiece is like just so freaking bomb, man. Like, this dude is just so crazy. Oh my gosh. Then I play 1 copy of Mariamne, the True Draco Phoenix. This card I originally played at 3 when set rotation was at 3, because I played 9 diagrams and a lot of draw power to get me to my diagrams. So opening up with the card like this was really good. She's still very helpful and useful, because she's the best card you can destroy off a diagram, and she makes your Masterpiece off of herself by searching True King's Return. Masterpiece itself return summons her. Masterpiece gets tribute summoned right after that, which is really cool. And I just like having a card like this in my arsenal. She's also one of the reasons why I'm able to make a card like True King of All Calamities. So that's pretty cool. So that kind of sums the kings of the deck. And then this next lineup is basically going to be the actual normal summons that you make on your turn, which is 3 copies of Mr. Crowley. I originally played 2 of this card and 2 of the field spell. I decided to cut 1 of the field spell and play 1/3 of the actual card to make my deck less susceptible to Droll, Ash, and also even what is it called? Just Droll and Ash. I was getting ready to say Ogre, but you can't Ogre the field spell, which is really cool. So yeah, that's one of the main reasons. Even though I wanted to play a lot of food to bait out the Ash so I can chain Gamma, I still wanted to be able to get into Invocation without my Droll and Lockbird stopping me. So when you open up with Alistair and your opponent Drolls after you normal summon your Alistair, your opponent's basically just giving you a free Invoked Raijin with you not even losing anything to the Droll. So they've taken a -1 and you've actually gained advantage, because now their Droll and Lockbird has just been transformed into a threat that they have to deal with, which they actually gave you in the first place. So Alistair is pretty powerful at 3. There also are the occasions where you're playing him from hand to boost your fusion up to attack over monsters and also push for damage in time. There was actually a game when I was actually down by 1900 life points and I needed to do exactly 2000, so I used my Mechapa and dropped 3 Alistairs from hand, putting him at 5500, and it got me exactly I think it was 2100 damage for game, and if I didn't play 3 Alistairs, I wouldn't have been able to do that. Then we play 1 copy of Blue Boy. If you don't play the ulti, you're never going to draw him. And the next segment of the deck is just going to be hand trapped. We play 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Really shouldn't have to explain these cards. A lot of people don't like them, and a lot of people do like them. 3 copies of Ghost Ogre. We also play 3 copies of Cypher and Gamma. and also 3 copies of Joel and Lockbird, and 1 Max C. So speaking of hand traps and which ones are actually good and at all times and which ones are more situational, I think the best hand trap in my deck honestly is Cypher and Gear Gamma, because he does so much for me. He actually protects me from getting locked out of my deck by Joel and also Ash. He protects me not only from hand traps, but he can actually protect me from threatening monsters as well, because he can negate any monster effect. So if I actually happen to be playing into a board where Spiral Sleeper is there and I don't have a way to deal with the Sleeper, but I'm trying to play a field spell and have it not get it outed, or if I just have cards that I don't want to be threatened and threatened by the Sleeper, I can actually chain Gamma to negate Sleeper. And if he has Last Resort, yeah, he won't be destroyed, but at that point his effect has been baited out, and now you can proceed to summon any level 8 synchro that you play, which is really dope. So I feel like Gamma has the hugest impact out of all my hand traps, because every time I resolve it, I almost always win the game, because I take so much cards from my opponent's hand that it's so hard for them to come back. The way I play my deck is actually keeping track of the cards in my hand and the cards in my opponent's hand. And so long as I can keep more cards in my hand than my opponent does, and keep cards like Masterpiece and Mekaba in rotation, I can continue to just basically restrict my opponent from playing the game, control the duel, and keep everything at such a simplified game state that you have to just take Masterpiece head on and you can't do all of your shenanigans. That's why Ogre, Ash, Gamma, Droll, and Maxi are being played in my main deck, because also if I lose the dice roll, I don't want to lose the game just because I was forced to go second. So these make it a lot more fair when I'm going second, and also when you're going second and you have Gamma, it's the best hand trap to draw, because when you're playing your spells and your power plays and your opponent's trying to Droll, Ash, or Ogre you, Gamma forces it to resolve in backwards resolution, and you bait the hand trap out and you get your free synchro. Then you play the obligatory driver for the Gamma, and that's going to sum up the monster count. There are certain hand traps that are better at certain times. I think the hand trap that shined the most outside of Gamma is actually Ghost Ogre, believe it or not. I've used her to deal with so many funky problems. There was actually one of my favorite Ghost Ogre plays ever was when I chained Ogre to a Spiral Sleeper that had Last Resort equipped, and he was trying to pop my Meltdown and a Face Down. I had Masterpiece, and he didn't respond to Ogre. He was like, you know that Last Resort? He tried to pick up Last Resort and read it to me, and I was like, are you responding to the Ogre or not? He's like, no. So I was like, chain Masterpiece, destroy Last Resort. Everything resolved backward. Last Resort was destroyed. Ghost Ogre outed Sleeper. Sleeper outed my Magical Meltdown and my back row. And I still dealt with his entire board and kept my Masterpiece. If I didn't have Ogre, I wouldn't have been able to do that. So Ogre is always so powerful in certain situations. It's one of those cards that I kind of look at as my favorite hand trap a lot of the time. She's just really, really strong because she deals with the threat head on. And then for spells, we play 3 copies of Double D's Dragonic Diagram. This was another beneficial accoutrement that I feel like my deck had over other decks. It's not just the Masterpiece, it's actually the grind game synergy that the True Draco Apocalypse provides for you, as well as the spells known as Heritage and Disciples, because when they're sent to the graveyard, they actually take cards out that I really need to get out of my way anyway. So they're really good for sniping out back rolls and monsters, and Diagram allows you to do that effectively because you can trade them out for other threats while taking cards out at the same time. For example, if you're going second and you pop an Apocalypse with your Diagram, or if your opponent tries to hand trap you and you're like Gamma, now Gamma's took a hand trap, Apocalypse is taking a monster out, you're going to search off your Diagram anyway. So there's like a lot of different ways you can grind it out with your True Draco back rolls, and Diagram helps it out a lot. So there are a lot of reasons that I took into consideration for why I wanted to play a True Draco variant. And I feel like also because Dracos aren't as popular, most people aren't actually preparing themselves for Dracos. We play 1 Meltdown, which I call the hot sauce. You also play 3 copies of Optimus Prime. If you don't play OT Terraformings, you will not draw them. And you play 2 copies of the Foreign OT Secrets, because you'll never draw them if you don't. And also 2 Knowledge. You play Searchable Spellcasters, so these are always live all the time. One could even go so far as to play 3 of each, but I feel like I don't want to draw multiples of the same card, and also I want better cards in hand sometimes. Then I play 1 Heritage and 1 Disciples. This may catch a lot of people off guard, but they're actually my choices for a reason. And because I don't play Mariamne or Ignis Heat or Draco Cavalry, I was like, you know what? I really only need 1 of each of them. I don't play Desire, so I don't have to worry about losing them. They're totally recyclable. And at the same time, they're bricks in hand because they do nothing by themselves without the assistance of other cards in your hand. They're not like Alistair, where this is the only card in my hand I can do something, if you get my drift. Then you play the 1 Invocation. If your opponent ever chains Cosmic Cyclone to it, as it resolves, you banish your Alistair, summon your Fusion. Cypher and Lord Omega can always put this back in grave, so you can keep it. So playing 1 is fine. Then I main deck Dark Hole and Raigeki to also help me out to going second. Even if I don't draw one of my 13 hand traps, I draw cards like Darko Raigeki or one of the 3 evenly matched that I main deck. So preparing for events like YCSs and also regionals, I take into consideration, do I want to be a go first kind of guy or go second kind of guy? And I thought to myself, you know what? I want to do both. I want to be able to go second and have a successful game, and I want to be able to go first and still have a good game and do what I needed to do in the first place. So I main deck cards that help me for going second, and the true Draco Invoked archetype is already built for going first because of how it establishes Masterpiece of Makaba and says deal with it. And we main 3 evenly matched so that going second is 100% fair. This card has little to no impact against me whatsoever. You might banish my diagram, and that might be the one card I lose, and I'll keep Masterpiece. So because of that, most people actually don't even use evenly matched on me. 3 copies of Solemn Strike to help you combat hand traps and also deal with the Spiral matchup. Believe it or not, Strike is a really powerful card in the Spiral matchup. If timed right, it can win you the duel. And also in the Trickstar matchup, this is just a blowout because it negates Kandina and shuts their turn off. At that point, they're just like set and pass, which really helps you because you can pick their board apart with such ease. You have Ash to deal with the, reincarnation if they still had it. And sometimes the reincarnation actually gives you a better hand to begin with. We played 2 Apocalypse and 1 Return to sum up the traps. I didn't want to play 3 Apocalypse because I hate drawing into it too much. And also there are times when I drew it and I had no other cards that can be used for it. So those are my reasons for playing such little of the actual Draco cards. Yeah, spells and traps. Masterpiece basically has 5 chances to get it right, and if he doesn't, you also side deck Anti-Spell Fragrance, which gives you 3 additional continuous traps to tribute and or banish the pot. Next, I guess we'll go over the extra deck. I play 1 Calamities, aka Chlamydia, and 1 Baguska. Because my deck is able to make these cards, this is what gets me an edge over almost every deck, because sure, some decks can make rank 4s, but practically no deck, aside from maybe the Dino deck, can actually make Calamities. So making this against Spirals, ABCs, and sometimes even the Burning Abyss can't do anything about Calamities. And it's just like Spirals can't do anything. ABCs really can't do anything. Trickstars don't really lose to Calamities because Licorice does not activate, so they can still burn you. But Calamities, aka Chlamydia, is a card that I feel like is so beneficial to have in my arsenal. It also shuts down Pendulum Magicians because they may be played as scales, but they activate as monsters, and because they're in your possession, they can't activate whatsoever. So Purple Poison, Double Iris, Black Fang, they're all useless. You can't do anything with them. So these are the 2 extra deck boss monsters that kind of are my trump cards and basically determine the outcome of the duel a lot of the times. Then we play 3 Medieval Mikey, which is actually just Invoke Makaba. One of the best plays that I can make. Sometimes when you're in a position to do so, you want to make Makaba first so that you can negate hand traps so that you can proceed with your combos. Or even just to deal with the sleeper. When you normal summon Alistair going second and make Makaba, anything you activate at that point is safe because if they are stupid enough to play their sleeper, you can just negate and banish him. And because Spirals play no real traps, they really don't have a Solemn Strike to answer it, and if they did, they probably wouldn't play 3. So Makaba has helped me going second immensely to out a lot of boards, and some decks just can't really play around him without losing their turn. Then 2 Raijins, which helps you so that people can't link summon. Book of Mooning, the Licorice helps so that you don't get burned, etc, etc. It just really helps out a lot having a Book of Moon on legs. In the Burning Abyss matchup, this makes it free because BAs face down means no BAs can be summoned. 1 Kaliga to not only skill drain my opponent, but to extend my plays to make Baguska, aka Syphilis. 1 Purgatrio. I actually killed a Trickstar player when he scapegoated, and I just Purgatrioed all 4 of his tokens. And then Cocytus because a lot of decks can't deal with it, and this is like the equivalent of Masterpiece in certain matchups because they just don't have an out to it. Then we play Omega and also Scarlight Red Dragon, Archfiend for my Cypher and Gamma package. A lot of people were like, dude, why the heck are you playing this? Why not just play 2 Omegas? A, Omega puts itself back into the extra deck in the first place, and B, I needed something that was as close to Black Rose as possible since my deck can't really make Black Rose in a consistent manner or fashion. I was like, if I'm going second and I Gamma a hand trap or a monster like a Bistroller that was in my way, I can make this and clear the board for free and still continue with my pushes, which is really dope. So Scarlight helps out a lot, even in the Spiral matchup, because if you Gamma... If you Gamma like the Sleeper and you're able to Scarlight everything else but Sleeper, at that point Sleeper's just sitting there and you can just pick him apart with such ease, it's just ridiculous. This also does burn damage, which helps you out immensely because you can win games all by he can win you games all by himself. And then for Cherry's targets, we play Double Helix, Buster, and Totally Awesome. I chose Totally Awesome over Dante because I have such a simple and easy Burning Abyss matchup. You'd be surprised. That deck is really a walk in the park for me. I can always just banish Dante with my Invoked Fusion, and I felt like Totally Awesome was a lot bigger problem than Dante was because it's not really the Dante, it's the actual BA monsters that make the deck so good. And while Dante can still make the Beatrice, I really am not worried about that card because Makaba can just negate and banish her, and I play so many lights that I always have access to Makaba. So Totally Awesome was a better choice because Toad is a bigger problem to me because it's just so annoying in the grind games how he just keeps coming back. It's just so irritating. So if you do play Paleos, you play the Toad for your Cherry's target. And then for the side deck, I side deck 3 Raw Spear mode. I wanted to be ready for a lot of explosive decks like Light Sworns, Spirals, some ABC decks do a little bit too much. And there are also those random decks that link summon a lot, like World Chalice, where they make these huge boards with Trigate co-linked by 3, and it's like really hard to deal with. There's also the Void Feast play when you summon 2 Decatrons and Jetty. You Raw Spear mode those. There's also Ties of the Brethren plays. There's so many different applications that Raw Spear mode has in this side deck that there's a lot of decks you can play him against, and he actually does you justice. So I feel like Spear mode is just way too strong to not play. There's so many other decks that I can name that Raw Spear mode hits. It's crazy. For Kaijus, I'm playing 3 Kaijus. At the moment, I'm debating whether or not I actually play Slumber. I have it here because I was like, you know what? I added Dark Hole from my side deck to my main deck so I can open a slot for a 3rd Kaiju because I feel like 3 Kaijus was a better ratio than 2, obviously. Then I was like, why not play the Slumber as a 3rd optional board wipe and also a way to search the Kaijus out? I'm still finding space, but at the moment, 3 Kaijus is doing justice. For a random True Draco mirror match, for a ABC matchup, also for the Spiral matchup, and believe it or not, Trick Stars. 3 Winter Cherries for the 3 targets. In addition to the 3 targets, I also main deck targets that help me out in the Lightsworn matchup or in the Pendulum Magician matchup. Omega's a great Cherries target. In addition to that, in my Invoked Mirror match, I can just reveal my Makaba, banish theirs. In the True King Dino matchup, I can reveal my Calamities, take theirs away. And almost every deck plays Baguska, so I play a lot more than 3 Cherry targets, believe it or not. So this is a very, very versatile side deck staple. It's one of the reasons why I feel like it was worth 3 slots. I also main deck, side deck 3 anti-spells to have some form of a floodgate when I'm going first, to make the game a lot more simplified, and also to have more food for Masterpiece to either summon him or to destroy cards. Then I also played 2 Scoldings and 1 Warning. 3 Scoldings was a bit too much because I didn't want to open up with a lot of Solemns because I already played 3 Strikes. So if you open up with just a Strike and a Scolding, or like a Scolding and a Warning, a Strike and a Warning, you pretty much got game because this deck's average opening is actually Masterpiece, Makaba, and a Hand Trap. So if you open up with Masterpiece, Makaba, a Hand Trap, and a Strike, you've got game on board because not only do you shut every single play your opponent has down, but also you put them down to 1 to 2 cards in hand, which has happened to me a lot. That's why I 2-0'd so many people when my deck went undefeated last Monday. So that pretty much sums up the side deck. So as I said, I wanted to be ready for Spirals. I wanted to be ready for ABCs, Pendulum Magicians, Trick Stars, Burning Abyss, Lightsworns, Rogue decks, Infernoids, Invoked. I wanted to be ready for all those decks. And I felt like a lot of my side decking staples covered a lot of those categories. Like Etchy-Spell covers every single deck that I just mentioned. It covers them all. So does Solemn Warning and Scolding. They hit every single powerful card in those matchups. Winter Cherries deals with ABCs, Spirals, Pendulum Magicians, Lightsworns, and also Invoked. Kaijus and Raw Spear mode kind of deal with everything that I either can't deal with or don't want to deal with to begin with. So these are my going second cards, these are my going first cards, and these are my blowouts for certain matchups. So my side deck was one of the main beneficial accoutrements that I had for when I'm playing against other decks, because if my deck can't do what it already does so well, then I can add in assistance for it by taking out some of my 3-ups and just side decking certain cards. And my main deck is also built to counter every single strategy. It doesn't really have a bad matchup. Because my worst matchup was against hand trap heavy decks is the reason why I chose to start main decking Gammas. Because if you remember, I was actually side decking these to begin with. So that pretty much sums up the deck profile. And I'm prepared for the event for every single deck that's coming my way. In addition to that, I'm going to get lots of sleep and eat and make sure that I have energy to play. And that's going to gotta be something that I mentioned in the video that I do for preparing for YCS regional events. and also nationals, which is very important. With that said, God bless you guys. Make good choices. Don't hurt your brain cells. Stay tuned for future content. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comment section below whether you have positive or negative feedback. Nonetheless, I'm going to hear you out, and I respect every man's opinion. Peace out, y'all.